Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I bring you another chapter in the love story between Ly Hoai Ca and Officer Hùng, of a romance that is both tender and full of challenges. In this episode, Hùng once again proves his courage and strength as a true police officer. Together with his fellow comrades, he takes part in a major operation to dismantle a cross-border drug smuggling ring, a mission filled with danger, requiring precise coordination and unwavering bravery. Amidst the tense days, as reports kept coming in one after another, Hùng remained calm and determined as always. He knew that every step he took carried not only the responsibility of a law enforcer, but also a promise to his people, his homeland, and the woman who always watched over him from afar, Ly Hoai Ca. Stay tuned for today's video to witness all the intense and emotional moments in Hùng latest mission. The early sunlight stretched out like a thin silk ribbon, draping softly across the moss-covered rooftops. Morning dew still lingered among the erica leaves at the gate, collecting into tiny droplets on the tips of young grass. From afar came the sound of roosters crowing, carried by a gentle breeze, blending with the barking of dogs and the rhythmic clatter of baskets from the women heading to the market. A wisp of smoke rose from a small tiled house by the dike, curling into the mist, painting a scene of peaceful simplicity, warm and familiar, the kind of countryside morning that touches the heart. Along the red dirt path, still damp from last night's dew, Hoai Ca pedaled her old bicycle, her jacket fluttering lightly in the breeze. Each turn of the wheel echoed with the rhythm of her childhood, of mornings spent following Mother Ha to the market, with the distant sounds of chatter and laughter still echoing in memory. Today, the sky was clearer than usual. Sunlight filtered through the leaning bamboo groves, scattering soft shadows along the narrow path that led to the small house hidden behind a cluster of green banana trees. Mother Ha, the gentle foster mother, lived alone in that old, time-worn home. Inside the kitchen, steam rose thick and fragrant with the bright red scent of ripe diep fruit. The aroma of freshly cooked sticky rice, coconut milk, and diep blended into a warmth that could soften even the coldest morning. She stirred the sticky rice with her thin but steady hands, her gaze focused yet kind. Outside, Hoai Ca parked her bicycle and called out, "Mom, I'm here." Hearing her voice, Mother Ha turned around, a gentle smile lighting up her wrinkled face. "Oh, Hoai Ca, you came early. I'm steaming Zoi diep to sell tomorrow. Come in, dear." Hoai Ca stepped inside, took off her jacket, rolled up her sleeves, and said softly, "Let me help you, Mom. It's cold today, but the sticky rice smells amazing." The two of them worked together, their laughter echoing through the little house. The soft rhythm of the knife on the cutting board, the steady thud of the pestle pounding the rice, and the crackling of the firewood blended into a gentle symphony of home. Time seemed to slow down in that humble kitchen, leaving only warmth in their glances, their smiles, and every simple gesture of care. After a while, as the scent of Zoi filled the air, Hoai Ca opened her basket, took out some fresh pork from the market, and said with a bright smile, "Mom, how about we make some shredded pork to mix with the Zoi? It'll taste great and sell even better." Mother Ha's eyes sparkled with delight as she smiled. "That's a wonderful idea, dear. My daughter's so clever, the customers will love it for sure." The sound of chopping meat and pounding rice rang through the room, mingling with their cheerful chatter. Outside, the morning breeze drifted through the erica trees, carrying the sweet aroma of diep and kitchen smoke far across the fields. It was a simple morning, yet filled with tenderness, where love, family, and the warmth of the countryside intertwined in every fleeting moment. The two women sat by the tray of freshly steamed Zoi diep, the rising steam curling in the air, carrying the sweet scent of ripe red GAC that filled the little kitchen. Each grain of sticky rice glistened like tiny pearls, its soft fragrance simple yet comforting, the scent of warmth, abundance, and peace. The morning sunlight slanted through the bamboo window frame, painting thin streaks of gold across the old brown floor, reflecting softly on the faces of the two women, one old, one young, both smiling with quiet tenderness. Outside, sparrows chirped cheerfully on the tiled roof, while a gentle breeze rustled through the dry banana leaves, swaying the faded fabric curtain ever so lightly. It was a scene so ordinary, yet so deeply touching, where every breath, every small movement, carried the gentle warmth of a peaceful countryside life. Mother Ha scooped a spoonful of sticky rice, placed it carefully on a small porcelain dish, blew on it to cool it down, and turned to her daughter with a smile that glowed softly in the morning light. Her voice trembled slightly, yet carried a tender warmth. "You know, dear, this is the first time in my life I've ever received a gift for October 20th, Women's Day." The words were simple, but heavy with emotion. Her aged eyes glistened with joy, her lips quivering slightly from the swell of feeling. She told her daughter that earlier that morning, her son Ha had called from afar. His voice, choked with emotion, had traveled through the phone waves, sending love, blessings, and a small amount of money for Hoai Ca to buy a gift on his behalf. She had laughed and said that just hearing his voice was enough happiness for her. But when she held the little gift in her hands today, her heart swelled with tears, not because of its value, but because of the simple feeling of being remembered, being loved, being cherished. Hoai Ca tilted her head slightly, sunlight shimmering in her bright eyes as she looked at her mother with affection. Smiling, she brushed away a few loose strands of hair from her forehead and said playfully, "Then this year you've got 2 presents, Mom, one from Brother Ha and one for me. Quite a memorable Women's Day, isn't it?" She chuckled and began telling her own story of that day, her tone light and teasing. "You know, Hung's so clumsy, Mom. I thought he'd completely forgotten. But that day, he actually cooked for me himself. The fried eggs were a little burnt, and the braised fish was too salty, but to me, it was perfect. Then he gave me a bouquet of daisies and took me for a ride around the lake. The breeze was cool, the world felt peaceful, and my heart just softened." Mother Ha listened quietly, her eyes glowing with joy. She set the dish down and gently held Hoai Ca's hand, a thin, delicate hand, but so warm and full of life. Her voice was slow, steady, carrying the wisdom of a woman who had seen the rise and fall of life. A man who pays attention to your feelings, who truly cares for you, that's someone you must treasure. In this world, there are many talented men, many rich ones too, but a man with a sincere heart, one who truly thinks for others, that's rare, my daughter." Hoai Ca lowered her gaze, smiling softly as her eyes glistened with tears. She didn't speak, only tightened her grip on her mother's hand, as if to hold on to the warmth, the love, the years of quiet sacrifice that hand carried. Outside the porch, the sunlight had risen higher, golden and bright upon the areca leaves. Kitchen smoke drifted lazily into the air, blending with the fragrance of Zoi Gac, the aroma of shredded pork, and the quiet tenderness between mother and daughter. In that little kitchen, their gentle laughter mingled with the sounds of the breeze and birdsong, forming a soft, beautiful melody of the morning, simple, warm, and filled with love. After breakfast, the mother and daughter still sat by the tray of Zoi Gac resting on the old wooden table. Thin wisps of steam rose from the pot on the stove, mingling with the rich fragrance of glutinous rice and the faint scent of firewood. The little kitchen brightened as the morning sun slipped through the bamboo walls, casting delicate golden streaks on the earthen walls, darkened by time. That light fell softly on Mother Ha's gentle face, every wrinkle standing out clearly, each one a trace of hardship and warmth carved by the years. She set down her chopsticks and let out a quiet sigh. Her eyes drifted toward the doorway, where a tall areca tree swayed gently and a flock of sparrows hopped from branch to branch, chirping cheerfully. Her voice grew low, tinged with emotion. "Your brother, huh? He's changed a lot lately, my dear." Hoai Ca lifted her head slightly. The smile still lingered on her lips, but her eyes softened with attentive warmth. She knew that every time her mother mentioned her son, there was both pride and a deep, familiar sadness, the ache of a mother who had spent years in quiet loneliness while her children chased their livelihoods far from home. Mother Ha picked up a wooden ladle and gently stirred the still warm Zoi, speaking softly. He used to work all the time, always on the move, rarely called. I knew he was struggling, so I never blamed him. But at night, when the house was empty and the wind whistled through the cracked tiles, my heart felt heavy. Sometimes I just wanted to hear his voice, but I didn't dare call, afraid I'd bother him. She paused, then turned to Hoai Ca, her eyes filled with tender affection. But these past few years, he's changed completely. He calls every few days now, asks what I've eaten, if I sleep well, if I'm in pain anywhere. Once, he even sent a small parcel, just some vitamins and a wool scarf, but to me, it was as precious as gold. Her voice softened, but every word was soaked in emotion. Yesterday, he told me he's been saving up. Next year, he wants to come home and fix this old house, put on a new roof so it won't leak when it rains. I was so touched, not because of the house, but because I know he's truly grown up. By now, her eyes had turned misty in the soft kitchen light. A tear shimmered like a drop of dew in the golden glow of morning. She reached out and took Hoai Ca's hand, thin, yet firm, passing into it the warmth of a lifetime's love and care. I'm old now, dear. I don't wish for anything anymore. Just knowing that my children think of me, that they care, that's enough. Old folks like me don't need wealth. Just hearing their voices, that's happiness already. The kitchen fell quiet for a moment, filled only with the faint crackling of the fire and the whisper of wind slipping through the door. Hoai Ca sat still, her hands wrapped in her mother's, her heart swelling with a tender ache. She looked down at those hands, calloused, sun-darkened, with slender, weary fingers, yet so full of gentleness. Every scar, every wrinkle told a story of labor, of countless seasons under sun and rain, of silent sacrifice born of love. Her lips trembled into a small smile, her eyes glistening. She understood, a mother's love doesn't need many words. Sometimes it lives in a single glance, a held hand, a shared meal, or a simple phone call, and that's enough to warm an aging heart. Outside, the sunlight spread golden across the courtyard, gleaming over the areca trees and mossy rooftops. The kitchen smoke slowly faded into the sky, leaving behind the lingering sweetness of GAC and the quiet hum of love. A peaceful countryside morning, simple, gentle, and full of warmth, where affection is spoken not through grand gestures, but through the smallest, most heartfelt things. In the small kitchen, the fragrance of red Zoi GAC filled the air, mingling with the warm, smoky scent of burning firewood. The rhythmic sound of the pestle pounding the sticky rice blended with the gentle crackling of the flames, creating a familiar melody, the quiet song of a peaceful countryside morning. Hoai Ca stirred the sticky rice gently, a soft smile curving her lips. On her face glowed a quiet tenderness, the kind of light that belongs to a woman who feels content, even without speaking it aloud. Her gaze wandered toward the small yard outside, where the sunlight spilled in golden streaks through the rows of areca palms. In that moment, Hung's image came to her mind, his gentle smile, his hurried but sincere demeanor, and those sun-browned hands that always fumbled clumsily whenever he tried to help around the house. Her voice trembled slightly as she began to speak, her words carried on a warm breath. That day, he only had one day off, Mom. Yet he still rushed home. In the morning, he took me and little Tony out to play. In the afternoon, he went to the market, bought flowers, and even cooked dinner himself. Her voice faded, and so did her smile. A thoughtful expression took its place. The firelight flickered softly, illuminating her face, a blend of quiet happiness and unspoken worry. She whispered, her tone so low it was as if she was afraid to hear her own fear aloud. Sometimes I'm afraid, Mom, that I'm too reserved, too quiet. What if one day he gets tired of me and drifts away? Mother Ha stayed silent for a long while, simply watching her daughter. She knew that behind Hoai Ca's strength and independence lay a tender heart, one easily bruised, like any woman's. Reaching out, she placed a frail but warm hand on her daughter's shoulder, her touch steady and full of comfort. You just need to be sincere, my dear. A good man will always feel it. True love doesn't need fancy words or decoration. Hoai Ca looked up at her mother. The firelight cast a soft orange glow over their faces, one older, one younger, both radiant in the same gentle hue. Their shadows stretched across the earthen floor, melting into each other amid the thin veil of smoke. In that simple moment, there was nothing grand, only warmth, affection, and the quiet beauty of love and trust, lived in the simplest of ways. Outside, the morning breeze rustled through the banana leaves as sunlight poured across the porch. Inside, the sweet scent of Xoy Gac lingered in the air, a tender reminder that happiness sometimes lies in nothing more than these small, peaceful moments. Somewhere else, dawn had only just begun to stir. The sky still wore a veil of gray mist, and weak sunlight filtered through a dust-covered window in the office of the Criminal Investigation Unit. That light, thin and cold, fell across the scratched tile floor, glinting off the thick stacks of case files piled neatly on the desk, where Hung stood, carefully arranging his workspace. On the old wooden desk lay traces of long, grueling days. A large map spread wide, marked with coded symbols. Crime scene photos capturing flashing lights in the middle of stormy nights. And a cup of black coffee, now cold, with a faint ring of steam still clinging to its rim. The air was thick with the scent of paper, ink, and coffee, a smell only those who live this life would find familiar, even comforting. The ticking of the wall clock echoed steadily, blending with the faint tap of a pen against the table. Everything was still, as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Hung lifted his gaze, his eyes dark and reflective. His attention lingered on the team photograph pinned to the wall, familiar faces, confident smiles of men who had stood shoulder to shoulder through countless missions. Among them was Fong, his most trusted comrade, smiling broadly with an arm draped around Hung's shoulders. Memories of past operations, the adrenaline, the danger, the silent relief after every survival flashed through his mind with startling clarity, as though they had happened just yesterday. The sudden shrill of the desk phone shattered the silence. The sound, sharp, urgent, seemed to shake the very air. Hung froze for a second, then swiftly lifted the receiver. His voice came out firm, deep and steady, the tone of a man used to leading intense moments. "Hello, this is Hung speaking." From the other end came Fong's voice, tight and urgent, layered with the sound of wind and a running engine. "Reporting in, sir. They've shown up again at the same spot. The old Riverside dock. Looks like they're preparing for a shipment. We've locked down the perimeter but haven't moved in yet." For a brief moment, the room fell silent again. Hung's hand clenched around the receiver, His jaw tightened. His fingers began tapping rhythmically against the desk, slow, deliberate, focused. When he spoke, his tone was sharp, cold, and resolute, like steel drawn from its sheath. "Understood. Hold your position. I'm on my way." The phone clicked back into place with a dull thud. The air in the room seemed to harden, heavy with anticipation. He took a deep breath, grabbed the file from the edge of the desk, and quickly slipped into his uniform jacket. His movements were precise and efficient, but in his eyes glimmered something heavier, the weight known only to those who walk daily between calm and chaos. A sudden gust of wind burst through the half-open window, scattering the neatly stacked papers into the air. They spun and swirled in the pale light before settling at his feet, fluttering softly, like echoes of the storm about to break. The window creaked, the curtains slapped against the wall, and the smell of river water drifted in, damp and cold. Hung paused at the doorway. He turned back for a moment, taking in the familiar sight, this small room that had witnessed countless debriefings, countless weary returns, and the empty chairs of those who never came back. In the dim light, his eyes shone with a quiet, determined fire. He clenched his fist once, then stepped forward. The sound of his boots striking the tile echoed sharply, merging with the wind outside, steady, strong, unwavering. Beyond the corridor, dark clouds were gathering. The wind rose, carrying the scent of the river through the steel door that slammed shut with a heavy clang. Papers still danced in the air, swirling like omens. For Hung, this was more than just another mission. It was the beginning of a new battle, not only against the smugglers waiting by the riverbank, but also within himself, where duty and emotion collided like two opposing currents in his heart. At the commune police headquarters, dusk had already fallen. The pale blue light from the fluorescent tubes cast a cold glow over the somber faces gathered around the meeting table. The air in the room was thick and heavy, so still that one could hear the faint tap of a pen against the wooden surface and the slow, rhythmic hum of the ceiling fan. On the wall hung a large map of the border area, covered with dense red markings, arrows, circles, and notes pinpointing areas of suspicion. At the corner of the table, a walkie-talkie blinked with intermittent signals, crackling occasionally with static from the reconnaissance team stationed ahead. No one spoke, but every pair of eyes carried the same unspoken understanding. Tonight would be a long night. Hung stood at the head of the table, a thick stack of case files in hand. His face was drawn and tired after many sleepless nights, but his gaze remained sharp, unwavering. The shoulders of his dark uniform still bore traces of dust from his morning field inspection. Beside him stood Fong and two young investigators, all ready for what lay ahead. The door creaked open softly. Village Chief Lam and a commune officer entered the room. Their faces showed exhaustion, the look of men worn out after days of persuading villagers and sleepless nights of worry. They took their seats quietly. After a moment of silence, Chief Lam finally spoke, his voice hoarse, low, but steady despite the strain. "Since the storm, our people have suffered badly, Officer Hung. The crops failed, work is scarce. Some were lured across the border to work for good pay, and once they went, they never came back." He paused, his gaze dropping to the table, his throat tightening with emotion. Just a few days ago, someone saw a group of strangers in the village. They were recruiting young men, promising easy work, high wages. They prey on the poor and desperate, taking advantage of their hardship. No one spoke. The ceiling fan creaked once, then came to a stop mid-turn. A chill wind slipped through the door frame, making the notes in front of Hung tremble slightly. He clenched his fist, his knuckles cracked sharply in the silence. Then his voice rang out clear, firm, and commanding, cutting through the air like a blade. "We won't lose anyone else. Tonight, We move-ins surround the riverside dock. We take down their leaders, no escapes, no second chances. The room fell utterly silent. Only the faint tapping of a pen against the old table remained, steady, cold, echoing like a heartbeat before a storm. The light from above cast hard shadows on Hung's face, emphasizing every taut line of focus and resolve. His eyes gleamed not with fear, but with determination and duty, the look of a man who knew that behind every case file lay lives, families, and the fragile peace of an entire village. Outside the window, the sky had deepened to a bruised gray. Thick clouds rolled in, heavy with rain, and the wind howled across the courtyard, making the red flag whip violently in the air. Inside that cold-lit room, among weary faces and silent tension, Hung's eyes burned like a quiet flame, steady, unwavering, fueled by one unshakable belief: to protect his people no matter the cost. Night scene, the riverside. The moon was hidden behind a thick blanket of gray clouds, plunging the river into an eerie darkness. The wind howled through the bamboo grove, weaving between the dew-drenched reeds, its sound sharp and ghostly in the dead of night. The muddy bank shimmered faintly, reflecting the dim, flickering light from a distance, weak, unsteady, as if it could vanish at any moment. Waves slapped softly against the side of a wooden boat. Across the river, a group of men dressed in dark clothing were unloading sacks from the vessel, passing them one by one down to the sandbank. Every so often, a muffled cough broke the silence, then quiet again. None of them knew that, within the thick fog surrounding them, eyes were watching, sharp and unwavering. From atop the dike, Hung raised his hand, signaling silently. The recon team dispersed, splitting into three directions, moving swiftly and quietly toward their targets. The radio crackled faintly in the night, clipped, coded voices breaking through the static. Team 1 ready. Team 2 ready. Move-in surround. In a split second, flashlight beams cut through the darkness like lightning. A commanding shout rang out, loud and fierce, echoing across the river. Freeze! Police! The night erupted. Footsteps thundered, crates crashed. A warning shot cracked through the air, ricocheting over the water. The beams of light flashed across terrified faces. One smuggler panicked, tossing his sack into the river before bolting toward the reeds. Hung sprinted after him. Mud splashed under his boots, cold wind lashed against his face. He could hear his own breath, harsh and fast, and the rustle of reeds whipping against his uniform. The man slipped, sprawling into the swampy mud, scrambling to rise, only to see a beam of light flare before his eyes. Then came the heavy thud of impact as Hung tackled him to the ground, the struggle echoing with grunts, splashes, and flying dirt. Pinning the man down, Hung's voice rang out firm, cold as steel. The law will never tolerate those who aid evil. The smuggler twisted weakly, then collapsed in defeat, his eyes wide with fear. The cold click of handcuffs snapped around his wrists, final, unyielding. The flashlight beam caught Hung's face, streaked with mud, slick with sweat, yet his eyes burned with fierce determination. Behind him, Fong and the other officers had subdued the rest of the group. The radio buzzed again. All clear. Evidence secured. Hung rose slowly, breathing deep, his gaze fixed on the mist-covered river ahead. The night wind cut through his soaked uniform, carrying the sour scent of mud and the chill of river mist. Around him, his team exhaled in exhaustion after hours of pursuit, but in Hung's eyes, there was no relief. He knew tonight was only the beginning. This is just the tip of the iceberg, he murmured, staring into the black, restless current. There's another hand, pulling the strings behind them. Thunder cracked overhead, lightning slicing through the clouds and illuminating his face, grim, resolute, unyielding. In that flash of light, his expression became a silent vow beneath the storm-dark sky. Even in the darkest place, he would go to the very end to protect the peace of his people. Morning scene. A soft veil of mist hung low over the dike, like a delicate shawl draped across the quiet countryside. The air still carried the lingering chill of night, blurring gently under the first rays of dawn. From afar, the sound of roosters crowing echoed across the fields, mingling with the faint swish of a bamboo broom sweeping dew from the brickyard, the familiar symphony of a peaceful village morning after a long, stormy night. In front of the small house, Mother Hoai set out her goods for sale, a bamboo tray lined with small parcels of bright red zoygac, their sweet aroma filling the air. Thin wisps of smoke rose lazily from a neighbor's kitchen, fading into the morning fog. Her face softened, a gentle smile spreading across her lips, the smile of someone who had just heard news that finally lifted the weight from her heart after many restless days. The story of the smuggling ring's overnight capture had spread quickly through the village. At the market, everyone was talking, half fearful, half relieved. Some spoke of the tense raid by the riverside, others of the bravery of the commune police. And among those stories, Hung's name was mentioned with admiration, with gratitude. Mother Hoai set down the tray, her hands trembling slightly, though her eyes sparkled with pride and joy. She looked out over the misty fields and sighed softly. Thank heavens there are still people like Hung. Otherwise, our village would have suffered again. Her voice was warm but quivering, a mix of pride and the quiet sorrow of a mother who understood too well how poverty and desperation could lead people astray. Beside her, Hoai Ca sat with a cup of hot tea in hand, her gaze fixed on the distant fields. The sunlight was beginning to pierce through the mist, painting the horizon in a soft golden hue. She didn't speak, only watched in silence, her eyes shimmering with both pride and unease. Because she knew, behind every victory lay danger, and every night of peace was earned through unseen sacrifices. She whispered, barely loud enough for the morning breeze to carry her words away. I just hope this peace will last. The camera slowly pans from Hoai Ca's thoughtful face to the screen of Hung's phone lying on his desk. A new message lights up the display. There's still someone behind this. Be careful, Hung. His hand froze above the table. His eyes darkened as he turned toward the window, where the pale light of morning spilled across his face, half in shadow, half in glow. Outside, the river wind began to rise again, carrying the damp chill and the sound of water slapping against the banks, a faint warning of another storm quietly gathering. Hung clenched the phone in his hand, his gaze fixed on the distant riverside, where the mist still lingered, where something cold and unseen seemed to be waiting beneath the silence. Stay tuned for the next episodes on this channel to find out what awaits Hung and Hoai Ca ahead. Who is the one hiding behind the darkness? And will the peace of their quiet village endure? Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments, and hit like and subscribe to support the continuation of this story.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa tới video tiếp theo về câu chuyện của cho nhỏ đi Sơn, Ly Hoai Ca và cảnh sát Hùng nha mọi người. Hiện tại thì mình đang xuất vụ đề và giờ mình đang tìm tên cho video. Chỉ cần đặt tên xong cho video và nối video 1 phút đuôi mình đang quay đây vào trong video nữa là mình xuất ra là mình sẽ đăng tải lên. Tối nay thì mình sẽ lên video. Hôm qua mình tính lên video buổi tối nhưng mà không kịp, với lại là do kênh chính lên video nên là mình đẩy video lên vào sáng hôm nay, nên là tối nay mình sẽ cố lên video tiếp. Cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều đã luôn theo dõi và ủng hộ video của mình nha.